excited to talk about this. I'm going to start over. Welcome to tonight's Better Way Thursday workshop. This is our final workshop of the fall 2021 season. We're so glad to have you with us, and we're really excited to talk about tonight's topic, which is the technical interview preparation and success. One of the reasons why we wanted to be sure to cover this topic is we know a lot of you are getting to the point where you're finishing up some of your boot camps, some of your certificate programs. And I had a recruiter reach out to me recently, and I was talking to her about one of our tech moms, and she said, oh, make sure that she's really prepared for that technical interview. It would be a shame to have her get all the way in this process and then not really be prepared for this stage. So I was like, we haven't done a workshop on the technical interview before, and we're so excited to be partnering with Apex Systems tonight. So I want to introduce Kaitlin Westbrook, who is the National STEM Advocate at Apex Systems, and she's going to really tell you a little bit about herself and her career journey, but we're super grateful to have her here tonight. And Kaitlin, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Robin, for having me here tonight. And hello, everyone out there. My name is Kaitlin Westbrook, and just recently turned into Tolson. I am Apex Systems dedicated national STEM advocate. So I am essentially your job searching spirit guide and bridge to Apex. My mission, and something that I am quite passionate about, is helping to close the opportunity divide. I spearhead the relationships with our STEM-focused nonprofit and veteran program partners, as well as coding and tech schools, and to provide tools and resources through Apex to help increase overall employability. Before I moved into this role earlier this year, I was a national recruiter in the Richmond hub for about a year and a half. And before that, can you guess what I was doing, what my job was before Apex? Go ahead and throw it into the chat. Robin, you can have your best guess as well.
I have no idea. I'm waiting with bated breath to find out what it is.
So I was a private preschool teacher, and that also encompassed the Montessori philosophy. And I was also working part-time at a winery, and I had just essentially kind of hit that glass ceiling. I was feeling like I've been doing this for so long. It was just kind of the same thing day in and day out. I was ready for a change. I was ready for a mix up. I wanted to reach more people. I wanted to help and be of service. So I just completely through networking and honestly knowing the right person at the right time, I ended up connecting with someone who also worked at Apex, and they were like, your personality, I just think that you would thrive at Apex in this setting and in this industry. And so I decided to say, why not? And I went in for the interview and started a week later. So it was all really fast, and it was all such a change of pace, but taking that initial leap of faith, knowing that I wanted something new and exciting and different and something with more reach, that is what kind of led me here today. So just a few fast facts about Apex for those of you unfamiliar. Apex is one of the largest technology-focused staffing firms in the US. So we support 60,000 job openings a year for approximately 2,000 different companies or clients of ours in every single industry. But it's good to keep in mind that even though we support all industries, they do vary by location. And so when it comes to The opportunities that we have available, our top 3 areas of focus are the project management and business operations. Second would be infrastructure and security. And third would be that app dev, data management realm. And as for locations, we have a presence in almost every major city and or major metro area, with over 75 branches across the US and 2 offices in Canada and 1 new delivery hub in Mexico, which makes it incredibly easy to get connected to an Apex recruiter that is local to you. So
Kaitlin, sorry, can I stop you? Just go back.
Sure.
And maybe you'll be covering this later, but we'd love to find out who would be our most local recruiter for those of us here in Utah in the Salt Lake City area. So at some point, if you could cover that and let us know how to connect with that person, that'd be wonderful.
For sure. And so that is actually something. So we have an office in Salt Lake City. And so reaching out directly to that branch would be probably the most direct way. Also on LinkedIn, you can type in Apex Systems Recruiter Salt Lake City or Utah, and it will bring up just a list of recruiters. And so also when you're searching through and kind of vetting out recruiters, you're definitely going to want to interview the interviewer when trying to pick out who is going to be the best fit for you in your job searching journey. So don't just pick any recruiter in Salt Lake City. You're going to want to have a skills focused recruiter that is going to be applicable to you and your job search and your skill set. And I'll definitely, okay, thank you. I'll definitely drop the link and everything in there so that you guys have all of that information. So yeah, let's get to the meat of the sandwich, which is the technical interview. So technical interviews are typically the first round of the interviewing process. The interviewer or the hiring manager wants to ensure you possess the technical ability and knowledge, as well as problem solving and critical thinking skills to be successful and thrive in the role and at their organization. It really depends on the company, but some technical interviews will be through an online platform like Spark Hire or Carrot, and others will be over the phone or through video conferencing or FaceTime, Zoom, Skype. And then there is always face-to-face. It is completely up to them. And so as we kind of, how did you feel when I said the word technical interview? Did it give you that little pit in your stomach? Just even before, just anytime anyone brought up interview or just being in any sort of spotlight, it really does just like almost catch you like a deer in headlights. So, I mean, a lot of us do get sick to our stomachs when we even hear the word interview, but here I'm hopefully going to help demystify the dreaded technical interview and prepare you to absolutely crush it. No nerves, just preparation, feeling prepared. And so that is actually the first P in the 3 Ps of technical interviewing, prepare. And then we've got practice and perform. So let's dive in. Prepare. Tip number 1. This morning, I was actually listening. I have a 13-week-old puppy at home. So we do very, very early mornings here. And this morning I got up and I like to get to YouTube. I love inspirational videos in the morning. I love just kind of like a great start to the day. So I was listening to an inspirational video of Oprah Winfrey. And she said something that really, really just struck me and resonated with me. She said, I don't believe in luck. For me, luck is preparation meeting the moment of opportunity. Listen to that again. Luck is preparation meeting the moment of opportunity. The more we do in preparation for something that we want or are working towards, the better off we are when we meet that moment of opportunity. The better off. We're not being caught off guard. We're not that deer in headlights. We are prepared for when that moment arises. So when you're getting ready for a technical interview, you need to be prepared for questions about you, your skills, experience, certifications, competencies, languages, processes, systems, tools, any of the tools that you've utilized that are required for the job at hand. Your two very first action items should be review the job description, break it down, pick it apart, read between the lines, pay special attention to specific skills, languages, tools that are necessary for the role. And then second, you're going to want to research the company, go to their website, break it down, pick it apart, read between the lines. This is a great point to stockpile questions to ask the interviewer or hiring manager for your interview, but it's also a great way to kind of see what the company is all about. And hot tip, if they say the words, do you have any questions for me? You should have at least 3 good questions ready in your back pocket every time. Never not have questions. And so company culture is also a huge deal, bigger than ever, with so many still working from home. It just, the growth opportunities, on the job training, salary, benefits are all important factors when we're looking for a new job. But good culture is found in the company's values, mission, and goals, and helps individuals be productive and satisfied and engaged. And I hope that's what you want out of your next opportunity for sure. So the interviewer, yes, will be gauging whether you are going to be a good culture fit, but you also need to do your homework and ensure they're a good fit for you too. So moving on to number 3. Oh, yeah.
Kaitlin, can I ask another question?
Of course.
Are there examples? You've talked a little bit about how you want to be prepared with those at least 3 questions and things like that, and talking about the culture and other things that we want to know. But do you have an examples of some great questions that we can ask? And also, are there certain types of questions that we shouldn't be asking in this first interview?
I would say, so starting with the do nots, I think sometimes it's a little cliche to ask, so what's the day-to-day like? Because in a lot of roles, it's like, well, the day-to-day is kind of different. So that is important, but I think it's better to ask like, I guess more specific questions as far as like, what are you looking for in the specific role that you're trying to fill? Like what are the primary, I'm at loss for words, what are the primary skills you want somebody to have for that particular role, so that you can kind of play off and engage from there as far as like, oh, well, then I can, whatever they just gave back to you, you can kind of build off that with your own skills as well.
So it sounds like you want to be prepared before you even go into the interview with several questions, but you also need to be really listening because questions will arise based on what they've said. And so don't be locked into, well, I've got to ask these 3 questions, but be more like a conversation, really listening. And as the questions arise based on the information that they've given you or haven't given you, be ready to pivot and change the questions up based on the conversation that you're having. Is that
For
fair?
sure.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. Yep. It's good just to have all of that prepared, but especially if it doesn't go the conversational route, but if it does, all the better. Next up is the power of your portfolio. What you do have, or what have you, or what do you have, or what have you created? There we go. That sets apart you from others. Whether it's a website you created, GitHub, pet project, whatever it is, have that packaged up with a pretty little bow and ready to show off. There have been instances where people have skipped right over the technical interviewing and just interviewing process altogether because everything else they provided along with their resume completely blew the hiring manager out of the water. So it is, and I'm not saying that that happens all the time. Those are pretty special instances, but the more that you have that is a value add or extra that sets you apart, the better. This is a time for the spotlight is on you. You are going to want to show off and have all of those things readily available and ready to share. And you can talk about it for hours and hours because you're so passionate about what you do. They want to see that interest and engagement. So the power of your portfolio is very strong. Do not underestimate it. And then last here is in the midst of preparation, take some time for you. We are humans. We are not computers. We need to take time to rest our brains, rest our eyeballs and bodies, sleeping, staying hydrated, breathing techniques, going for a walk around the block. Even just a 15 to 30-minute break every couple hours is just so crucial. And what it doesn't mean is move from your computer right to your phone. Um, so giving yourself that time to just reset will make all the difference. And so if you don't know what to do or where to start at any time, you can try this breathing exercise. It goes breathe in 1, breathe out 2, breathe in 3, 1, 2, 3, breathe out 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 10. And I don't know about you, but even just actively breathing and just being in the moment and being very conscious and calm, it creates just just it completely puts a blanket of calm over me, and I am ready to reset and focus and get back to business. So yeah, that is how I usually go about that. Tip number 2, practice. So technical interview questions can be traditional interviewing questions. Those are not off the table during a technical interview. They'll probably be asked multiple times if there are multiple interviews. So you are definitely going to want to know you, your why, your goals, your motivators, your resume, what you've done and what you hope to do. There's also going to be those brain teasers, technical proficiency tests, and problem solving questions as well. So the main piece of advice that I like to share with everyone just throughout the interviewing process is just whip out your phone and record yourself. Get comfortable talking about yourself, your personal and professional achievements, everything, and then play it back to yourself. Listen to yourself talk. Watch your recording. We're all basically on Zoom all the time now. So it's really great to just get used to it and get used to seeing yourself and hearing yourself. And that really does, it helps build confidence as well as self-awareness. And the more comfortable you are, the better off you will be. Next, know your skill set. I've used UX as an example here. So going back to basics, you should know your skill set inside and out. Like if you had to teach it to a fifth grader, and those guys are smart, but breaking it down bit by bit will definitely, you need to know just the simple question, what is UX design? What is the difference between UX and other design disciplines? What are the 3 most important skills of a UX designer? All of those things should just be right at the tip of your tongue. And that essentially goes into trends. You should know the trends and developments revolving around your skill set and that industry. With these kinds of questions, there really are no right or wrong answers here. The interviewer simply wants to gauge how invested and interested you are. So yeah, what do you think will be the next big thing in UX design? What have you done to improve your knowledge in the past year? Are you involved with any technical community groups or meetups? Those are all things that they're interested in. And also, they will be looking at your LinkedIn profile, and they can see your interests. They can see who you've liked. They can see what groups you're in. Having all of that displayed on LinkedIn, since that's more of your living, breathing resume, that is outward facing. And really what most recruiters utilize. So yeah, being very aware of your LinkedIn is definitely a hot tip as well. Knowing your process. Go back and walk through everything that you've done, baby step by baby step, all the way back to even just pushing the power button and walking through every single step there is. Using UX as an example again, there will be lots of how questions. Pick a product, identify a problem, describe how you could conduct the research, or how do you test the usability of a design? How do you do this? How do you do that? And they want to hear every single step along the way. Which brings me into brain teasers. Finally, brain teasers are a great way to see how someone handles pressure. They're also testing your problem solving and analytical skills. These questions aren't necessarily meant to have the correct answers. They want to see the steps and the path that you take to get to an answer, very much like knowing your process. You're going to want to take a step back and get out of your head and ask those clarifying questions and do your thinking out loud. And there are 3 main different types of brain teaser questions. So one would be how many this and that, just like how many fish are there in a pond? They have no idea how many fish are in a pond, They want to hear, okay, well, if one fish lays 300,000 eggs and there's 50 fish in the pond, then there would be this many fish, but maybe this amount wouldn't make it all the way. So, and they want to hear every step along the way, even if you sound silly. And a lot of interviewers or hiring managers, if they hear that process, especially within a more asking more technical questions, they'll hear that and see the path that you're going down, and then potentially prompt you to maybe steer a different direction and get back on the path. But they're understanding your process and knowing the way that you think and which way that you're going. Riddles. Why are doors rectangular instead of round or triangular? I actually asked my husband this night before last, and we had an hour-long discussion on all of the possibilities. And it just went on and on. And it was so funny because he really did. And he would stop and then start again. But I heard every single little tiny bit of the way that his mind was going and why this wouldn't work and why this would work, but that wouldn't make sense. And so, again, it doesn't matter how silly you are and if there's a right or wrong answer, but it's that logical reasoning and the way that you think that these interviewers and hiring managers are most interested in. Yes.
So what is, I'm just, from a person who hasn't gone through technical interviews, I have not done this in the past. What is the purpose of these types of questions? If they're not looking for a right answer, what are the hiring managers trying to gauge from listening to your process? What can they discover by listening to you go through this?
So they are really just trying to assess your problem solving and analytical skills. They're, again, and since there is no right or wrong answer here, they just want to see where you're going and how you get there, primarily. There is, I mean, that's essentially the reasoning. And with a lot of like technical support and any sort of design, app dev, really anything like that, there is so much problem solving that goes into it that they want to see where you start, what comes in the middle, and then what is the resolution? What answer did we get to? And are we sticking with that? Or am I going to prompt another question, which makes you go on another tangent and go somewhere else, and seeing how quickly you can maybe even bounce back, or maybe, and also gauging how quickly you can think on your feet. Are you someone that's going to shut down? Are you someone that is going to really fly off just completely left field? They're really just kind of getting a sense of you and who you are and your own personal skills. And then lastly, we've got our mathematical, statistical, probability focused questions like what are the chances of pulling 2 aces in a row in a deck of cards? Well, we know this many cards are in a deck and these are how many aces, and if it's shuffled this way or if it's shuffled that way. It's really, again, they're really just trying to see where you start, where you go with it, and the conclusion that we get to. All right. And so our free resources, there are an abundance. And my research, I'm not sure if we were live when we were just talking about how much I kind of just deep dove into just the technical interviewing subject matter of asking everyone that I knew of their top favorite websites, and just really anything that they had for me. I tried to soak in and do a little extra research as well. But this is what we came up with as far as um, coding challenge websites. We've got technical practice tests and guides. And then there's that hands-on practice, which are your pet projects, your past coursework, where you can go back anywhere where you felt a tiny little glimmer of struggle. You can go back and really build and deeply understand, and kind of building on that and going from there and really making it all make sense. And then volunteering, volunteering your time. There's a lot of nonprofit organizations that would love your support. I actually was speaking to someone. I was in a mock interview the other day, and he told me that in his spare time, he would take donated computers and completely restructure them, and he would donate them back to families in need. Even if it's not just for an organization, you're volunteering your time on building your skills and having that hands-on experience, which is so incredibly important, to really at any skill set and industry, just kind of getting your hands dirty. And sometimes in the very beginning, that's going to look like volunteering and doing those pet projects and things that aren't going to generate revenue, but it's something to add to your portfolio as well. So definitely keep that in mind. And let's to number 3, perform. So when you are in the midst of the technical interview, you are going to want to listen and answer carefully. Again, ask those clarifying questions. If you don't know, if there's kind of a gap in what they've said, try and really break it down and answer carefully and out loud every single step of the way. They're typically looking at the methodology behind solving the problem, and we'll place more emphasis on that instead of the correct answer. Even if you don't get it right, that is okay. The interviewer is really assessing how you're approaching the problem, how you're breaking down the problem, and how you are solving the problem. So instead of just getting to that correct answer and knowing that you're right, they really want to see everything that's going on behind the scenes as well. And then the dreaded, what do you do when you don't know the answer? So as an example, one of my points of contact that I work with over at CompTIA, he's a manager over there. So he knows a manager over at, he knows a manager who during interviews sits candidates in a room with a phone and a computer. And there is basically an unfixable problem on the computer, and he tells them to fix it. As he leaves the room, he mentions, "This is my extension. If you have any issues or problems, just give me a call." So the real test here is how long it takes them to call him and how quickly to exhaust all resources in trying to solve the problem. So it's not that you don't know the answer, it's that they want to see the initiative of everything going into trying to solve it. And it's okay if you don't know the answer, but they want to see, again, where you're starting, your thought process, and where we're getting to that may be that that block to where it's an unfixable problem. There is no answer. So it could be a trick question in that sense as well. So another point to what to do when you don't know the answer is don't make something up because chances are they're going to know that you don't know because you just gave a completely bogus answer and just tried to charm your way out of it or tried to just push through it. It is okay to say I don't know, but when following up with any interview, especially if you run into I don't know the answer, saying just making a mental note. And when you do your thank you note, as you should always do after an interview, uh, make note of that in your thank you note. What you didn't know, you are showing the initiative that that's what you've done. Um, and you have actually solved the problem. And now that you know, it kind of snowballs from there. And it really does show so much initiative of um, instead of just maybe even lying or just completely just a huge fallacy. So that is not what you want to do, especially in an interview. That is not how you get a call back. um,
So Kaitlin, this is a time where we don't want to fake it till we make it. Right? We don't want to pretend that we know it if we really don't know it.
No, in that HR interview, go ahead, be as confident as you want. In the technical interview, this is not a time to fake it until you make it. You want to be very forthright and honest. And if you don't know the answer, that is okay. But at least do your best in trying to get there.
I wonder if it could be a useful, and tell me what you think about this, to say, I don't know that, but here are the steps I would take to try to solve that, to find out the answer to that. Is that a way to try to think through, okay, because we teach our tech moms all the time, like Google is your best friend, that's you're going to learn all that. And maybe that's not, I would just Google it if I don't know the answer, but really what types of resources you would look, or what types of people that you would ask, and the types of questions that you would use in order to try to find that answer.
100%. Absolutely. And even moving into this role as a recruiter and to more of like a relationship manager type role and doing presentations. And when I was interviewing for this role, I hadn't put a PowerPoint together since like high school. I didn't even know where to start. I knew that these were like requirements. I mean, I've done it before, but like there are lots of buttons and gadgets and everything on PowerPoint that can make it real fancy. So what I did was, instead of trying to piece together a masterpiece, I took to Google and YouTube, and I sat down, and everything on that job description I worked through. And even if I didn't have those skills or I hadn't done that before, I showed them initiative when I was able to at least expand on, I haven't done that before, but this is what I would do. And even just putting everything together, watching a YouTube video on how to kind of make PowerPoint work for me instead of against me, because I am one of the most techless, unsavvy people. I mean, I get around computers and they just stop working. And then my husband walks in the room and magically it's like, ding. How does that even happen? So I am so thankful to have individuals like you all that are much more tech savvy and are making the world a better place, especially for me because of it. um, Last up, I've got additional Apex resources. Uh, so another really easy way to get yourself in the mix is our STEM candidate portal. So anybody affiliated with any of our partners, such as Tech Moms, can submit your resume and information and upload it to essentially get on our hot list, which is where our account managers and recruiters will go for any early talent opportunities, as well as DEI or veteran hiring initiatives. And it gives you a huge candidate advantage. The more that you sign up for job alerts, the better. The more places that we can find you and your resume, the better. So that is definitely something that I recommend, especially within the staffing world. Our turnaround is like 24 to 48 hours a lot of times. So when you see 7+ days since posted, it's probably already filled. And on the flip side, when you are getting to just even getting acquainted with a recruiter, it is really good to also just be in the know about opportunities that are coming up and also might not be posted, and staying in touch with that recruiter at least once a week, especially when you are active in the job market. That is really how you're going to gain the most traction. And since they already have your resume and all of your information and everything that you're looking for, that makes it so much easier to get you in the mix for opportunities as they arise, so you can be at the top of that list. Next up, career readiness resources. We have an abundance of free resources. You can access them from anywhere, anytime, all on resume optimization, interviews, LinkedIn optimization, networking, professional development. I mean, we've got it all, and it's there just waiting to be utilized. So they are all excellent resources, as well as our toolbox talks and webinars and workshops. We have a few coming up now. In this next month, really in the next couple of weeks, we've got our communication, collaboration, and improv. Oh my. I actually watched our improv, one of the career readiness resources on improv, and it inspired me to join an improv group here in Virginia Beach. And it really does help you kind of, again, take that step back and be ready for those conversational questions, and helps you prepare, especially in a professional setting, just to communicate and actively listen. So, and it's a lot of fun as well. And then we've got our introduction to Python. And then on December 10th, we have got our job search help session, which everyone is welcome to attend, just through the Remo platform, I believe. So it's in a little virtual office setting where you can go to different tables and kind of get all of your job searching questions answered. And last but not least, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. If you are having any trouble getting connected with an Apex recruiter, or if you're really just, if you need any assistance at all, I am here for you. And reach out to me via LinkedIn is probably the easiest if you ping me, but my email is there as well. And I will also be sending over the information for our Utah office for you all to be able to reach out and get connected.
I am so excited. This is awesome. Thank you so much for your personal information, your contact information, and also those workshops that you had up. I'm excited to see those. We've got several women who are interested in Python specifically, so I'll make sure that they see that note and their job searching tools. Everything looks great. So I've got some questions here. If you still got a couple more minutes,
Of
that
course.
I'd love to hop in. So first of all, what types of jobs have a technical interview? Are they really any tech job? Are you going to have a technical interview? Or are there somewhere it's more likely than others?
Some are more likely than others, like those cybersecurity, tech support, that realm. There is more than likely a technical interview. Um, when I was on the government services team for any help desk position that we had, the specific client had given us a list of 25 questions, and we would have to read off every single one, and they would have to give us a detailed answer, and we would have to type it all in. And I mean, it was very thorough. It took upwards of like 30 to 45 minutes sometimes. But again, that is all a part of the process, especially within that cybersecurity and technical support realm. They need to know a baseline of where you're at. And so yeah, that, and then the app dev space, any sort of coding, they'll send those your way, but that's usually through a link online that you're able to kind of go through. But also customer support, where we do spark hires, where they want to essentially do a recorded video of you because they want to see your overall communication skills before they even conversate with you. So yeah, there's many different.
Okay, super helpful. So we wouldn't necessarily see one for a project manager or other things like that, but it's more, or maybe.
It very well could be, for sure. I mean, there's always lots of questions to where they want to see your process, and they want to see where you're going with it. So yeah, I definitely think that the technical interview is kind of open to any and all skill set.
Okay, perfect. So when a recruiter, for if we submit an application for a job or something like that, and we get the first contact to set up an interview, will they let us know this is a technical interview or this is a more of a getting to know you? Like, how will they communicate that to us for what type of preparation we need to make for each specific conversation?
For sure. So when working with a recruiter, you are going to want to have a very, very open and honest relationship. When recruiters and account managers go to hiring managers, they get all of the details, everything. So, and any questions that you might have, ask them. And we can probably get that answered for you, unless it's literally giving away an answer to a question, you know?
Right.
So being open and having that open conversation and open dialogue with that recruiter will definitely help you in preparation for the technical interview as well as interview. And a lot of times you're not the first person that has interviewed for that position with that company.
Yeah.
So chances are they know they've asked the former uh, interviewee, how did it go? What kind of questions did they ask? So they're already going to know kind of a general idea of kind of the rundown anyway. So no question is off limits. The more open you are with your recruiters and the more constant contact that you have, the better.
Okay, perfect. That's so helpful. So another question got here, I've seen examples in technical interviews of like short answer questions, like, what is this? What is this? Is that something you see? Like just asking them, can you tell me what this? I can't even give examples because, like you, Kaitlin, I'm not the most techie either. And so, but I was listening to someone because we're in this world of Zoom. I was listening to someone do a technical interview, and that person was just asked a series of questions. Can you tell us what you know about this process? Can you tell us what you know about this term, or even things like that? Is that something you see? And how do we prepare for those types of questions?
For sure. Those are definitely questions. And it really does kind of go back to basics and breaking down everything that you knew at the very foundation. Because again, they're really, they are gauging where you're at and at what level as well. So they're going to start, especially with the interview, they're going to go to those foundational questions that you find, like, what is this, what is that, and you might think like, oh, easy, but then there are other people that get in these interviews and they're like, I and that is literally the job. So
Um,
again, going back to that job description, knowing really and kind of investing your time and yourself in your skill set and knowing it front to back is super super important, especially on the foundational level, because you will be getting asked those questions for sure.
And you shared a great, just personal example for yourself when you were going through your interview for this role, just digging right into the job description and saying, okay, am I ready with the bells and whistles of PowerPoint? Am I ready with all these different things? And just showing us how you got prepared for that. And just to kind of ease people's minds a little bit, when I was listening to this person, they did not know the answer to a bunch of the questions. They said, nope, I don't know what that is. I haven't heard of that, and I think they were a little more in depth, and this person still got the job. So I think I want to emphasize the idea that you've said, having the right answer isn't necessarily the thing, right?
No.
I love that mindset. So a couple of quick more questions. I know we're coming up on our time, but you mentioned mock interviews before. If how is a good way for us to, first of all, find somebody who's willing to do a mock interview and to help that person prepare if they're not necessarily a techie either? How can we help them prepare to give us a mock interview so that we can kind of get that practice?
Going to Google and getting those technical questions. I mean, there are lists and lists and lists as I was looking through. It's like top 50 questions, top 90 questions, and then all of those free resources that you can just kind of dive into. And then there's also like hackathons and different things like that. But as far as mock interviews go, honestly, they're one of my favorite things to do. It's just it's so much fun, and also being able to provide feedback at the end, and it's the repetition. The more that you do something, like the first time it is going to be really scary, but then after you keep doing it and you hear yourself, you're confident in your knowledge and you're confident in yourself, that the easier that it gets. So with the more mock technical interviews, the mock interviewer should definitely do their research and be at least savvy on the skill set, languages, what have you, tools. But also take to Google and get those common questions, or even, especially if that interviewer is in the industry, going
Mhm.
to other industry professionals and asking, what questions do you ask during your technical interview? These are not secrets to be kept. We want you to be confident and prepared. And so um yeah, that would be.
I love that. I love that advice. And a couple things there, just even as I was thinking, like if you're asking somebody to do your interview who doesn't know anything about it, well, all our tech moms have, at least 15 other people who are in their cohort who know something about it. So tech moms
For
ask each
sure.
other, let's do mock interviews with each other. And another thing I want to emphasize is how important it is to repeat it and do it several times. I teach a lot of salary negotiation workshops. And one of the things that I always emphasize is that you have to say these things out loud. Because so often
Yes.
we mentally prepare just in our heads and we say, okay, I would say this. I would say this, we're just thinking inside our head, but not saying it. And with some of these things, with salary, when you're asking for a certain dollar amount, you need to say it out loud. So it feels less scary, right? And I can imagine that it's the same principle with these interviews. Instead of just thinking what I would say, actually physically saying it out loud to another person, engaging their reactions can make all the difference in our feeling confident and better prepared to actually say these things. So I love that
For
idea.
sure.
All right,
Yes,
one
absolutely.
final question for you. Is it possible to over prepare? Is it possible to psych ourselves out and
Uh,
overthink it?
yes, of course. And that's why that self-care aspect and taking that time to rest and recharge. And I mean, my sister is one of the most perfect examples of it. I mean, she is currently in PA school. And so and that is a lot of information to take in. And it just absolutely about a week ago hit her tipping point. She was over and over and over again not giving herself breaks, would just weekends, weekdays. I mean, it was just constant, and to where her body shut down. Her nervous system absolutely just hit the fan. And so self-care is so incredibly important, even if it is just doing that breathing exercise and giving yourself just a recharge, with especially if you're feeling foggy, or if you're just feeling like groggy or not into it, step away. It's okay. You're not going to learn and soak in information when you're blocked off. It's not going to work. So taking that time for yourself is just, it's so incredibly important. And overdoing it will more than likely, again, nervous system shut down, hit the fan. It's not in your best
Yeah,
interest.
it's just going to
So
backfire on you.
yep, absolutely.
I love it, and that's a wonderful way to end this conversation tonight. Is that we can do all these tools, the preparation, the practice, and the performance. I love those 3 P's that you've given us tonight. All the resources. I'm so excited to dig back into these slides and start checking out some of these. That is so helpful. Thank you so much, and Kaitlin, also making yourself available to our tech moms to be a resource as well, and also a connector. But at the end of the day, we're going to do the best we can and prepare as best we can and be ready for it, but recognize that any individual interview is not the end of the world. We're going to have a lot of interviews before we get the job, and once we get that job, we're going to have a lot of other jobs after that. One of the things that we find sometimes is women in coming into a new industry is we feel like, I've got to get this right. So much is riding on this, but our careers are going to be long. We're going to have a lot of successes, and we're going to have a lot of failures, and that every practice interview that we have and every real interview we have is going to help us along that journey and make us a little bit more ready to do better next time and to ultimately have some great success. So this has all been so fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And everybody, thanks for watching this workshop. We're excited to take a little break from these, but we've got recordings of old workshops that you can watch over the holidays with all your spare time that moms always have over the holidays. But we can spend a little time for our professional development as well. So thanks, everybody, and we will catch you again in a few months. Bye-bye.